Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back to tonight's second half. Before we jump into tonight's very terrifying subscriber interview, couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. The merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss any of the informative and exciting uploads I put out twice daily, click that bell icon. And finally, last but definitely not least, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? All right, guys, today I have a subscriber with us. Her name is Selena, and she is from Middle Tennessee. I have not heard her encounters yet. I'm super excited to hear them with you guys as well. So right now, I'm going to turn the floor over to Selena. Selena, how are you?
Doing great, Jeff, and I'm very happy to be here.
I am super excited to have you. Believe me. So, you live in Middle Tennessee, and you've had some pretty intense stuff happening. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and let you share it with me.
Okay, I am calling Jeffrey because mainly I just want people to understand that there's things in the woods we don't understand and they're not telling us about. Quite honestly, for years, I've worked in the woods on cattle ranches down in Florida. I own a farm in Tennessee, and I can tell you I never thought about Bigfoot, cryptids. I've seen it on TV. I never gave it a thought. Then I moved to Middle Tennessee, and I have this farm, kind of homestead thing, and just a lot of weird stuff happens out here. And when I first moved here, I noticed things going on, but I never put it together. I've seen footprints. Matter of fact, I have seen the kind of Bigfoot-looking flat footprints with the toes, but they were not huge. Okay, so not the big ones, but kind of the regular blocky ones, about maybe, 5 or 6 inches long, maybe a little bit more, but not real big. And I've seen in a perfect mud puddle, 3-toed, kind of Dogman-looking footprint in my back pasture. I didn't know what that was. I thought to myself, I've been in the woods for years. I've never seen a print like that. That's not a bear. So just a lot of weird things have happened on this place. I live in a place where there's a lot of hollers, deep hollers. It's near water. And it could be, that's why it's a good place for these things to be. But I've had weird things happen, like I've had, Jeffrey, can you shut this off a minute?
Yep, hang on one second.
Yeah, so I've had just basically really strange things happen out here. I had quarter horses, and they die naturally of old age. And I had a quarter horse die that we buried, and when I would go and visit her grave a couple days later, I noticed that something was trying to dig it up. Now, normally when you see if a dog tried to dig something up or whatever, you would see paw prints or, paw marks and things. These were deep finger footprints in the dirt, in the sand and clay. It was deep, gouged, like a human was doing this.
Right.
Like, digging it. And it was all completely around this huge pit where, it made a big circle. And so that really freaked me out. I didn't think about it. I'm just like, what did that? And I was taking my dogs through the woods and running. I have Stila Brasileiro Mastiff. And we flushed something out of a holler, and it was reddish. It was huge. And I'm not thinking of Bigfoot, but whatever this was on all fours, and my dogs chased it, and I called them back, and it ran, and there was still snow on the ground and no leaves on the trees, so I could see it running over the hills, and it was like a red, like an orange reddish color.
Okay.
And a lady that owns a farm in the same county, her and I talked, and she just brought it up. Like, I don't talk about weird stuff, to my neighbors. And she just brought it up. We were looking outside her window in her living room, and she said, something was crawling across my pasture, and it was like orange, and it was as big as a cow, and it was on all fours, and she was doing like motions like it was creeping. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I think I saw that.
So really quick, I don't usually cut people off, but you've got, you like you said, you've got these Mastiffs that are huge. I mean, they're just big dogs anyway. And while you're seeing your dogs run after this thing, like you said, it was about the size of a cow. What were you thinking in your head at that point? Like,
I was seeing like I don't know what they call tunnel vision or what, I don't know, but I was just staring at it because you try to, you're looking at it and you're like, what is that?
Right.
Yeah. Well.
Was it faster than your dogs? Was it, a lot faster than your dogs, speed-wise?
Yes, it was. I didn't even know how it got over the barbed wire fence because I was so worried about the dogs getting away from me and running away.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted, because we were pretty far back there in the woods, but they had went down this steep holler, and whatever was down there, that's where it got flushed out. That's where whatever it was heard us coming and probably tried to hide, and the dogs sniffed it out and scared it, and it took off. And I'm just like, what? It's just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And so just a lot of weird stuff has happened out here. My cat brought in a baby bunny, and it was about the size of my fist, into the house. And so I tried to save it, and it was perfectly fine. I grabbed it, I put it in a 5-gallon bucket. Then I put it in a dog pen. I had one of those plastic dog pens with the, what do you call it? It's like a metal door, you can get them at Walmart or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was the large size. Well, I put the bunny in that so that in the morning I could put it back in the bucket and bring it down the road on the way to work away from my cats and let it go. So I put it out in the, where my cars are in my truck. And the next morning, this is going to blow your mind, Jesus as my Lord and Savior, as a witness to this right now, I will tell you, when I went out there the next morning, I opened up the cage, and the bunny was all bones.
Wow.
There was no skin. There was no blood. Nothing but bones. This is the most craziest, wild thing probably that's happened out here.
That's terrible.
Because something had to have opened that cage, ate it or whatever, put it back in there just to freak me out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, what does that? What animal does that?
No natural animal I've ever heard of. That's, there was no blood, no, gore, nothing. That's insane.
No, nothing. No hair. No, if something tried to sneak in that dog kennel and get that bunny, I had turned it the opposite way where the bunny couldn't get out of the hole, so the holes were up top. So the bunny had to stay in there, until the next morning, and there's no way he could have got out. Well, he didn't.
Wow.
Whatever got him and ate him. And there was nothing. I dumped it out, and I just sat there. I was so scared and freaked out when I saw this. I was just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So y'all try to put that together. So this is what I'm dealing with out here. I don't know what it is, but it's a sinker, and it's got fingers. I had come home one night and brought all my livestock and everything up into my front pasture and shut the gate because I like everything to be up where I can hear it at night. And I went out there to shut the gate, and something jumped off the bottom limb of my hickory tree. And instead of flying away, this thing, it kind of put its arms out, and it had feet, and it was black. And it had stuff dangling down from its arms, and it jumped out onto the ground and stopped. So I don't know what that was, but it was dark. My headlights were pointing right there towards the tree.
Right.
So I could see it, but it was very fast. And I have pictures on a game cam of something black. I took a picture of it on the game cam. So I've got a picture of this thing. And I've sent it out to people, you know. I think I sent it to Lon Strickler. It was a few years ago. So I found tunnels through my blackberry bushes, which could be any animal.
Yeah.
But I hear this is how these cryptids can travel through these bushes.
Yeah, they use, there's a lady that I talked to from North Carolina. She was a sheriff, and now she's in animal control. And there's these, I forget the name of the vines that are grown down there, but she has seen tunnels through these plants, like, that are just intricate and large enough for, you know, her to go into and walk around, and you can get lost in these things. And you can't see it from the road.
So something's going on. What makes that, you know,
Yeah.
what makes those tunnels? I don't see, you know, any wild animal wanting to get in briars like that.
Right.
Unless, well, deer I think maybe do, but I don't know.
She's convinced Dogman does the vine thing and stuff like that, because she's gotten some pictures.
Well, it sounds crazy. All this stuff, to people that are unbelievers, all of this stuff may sound really kind of crazy and nuts, but unless you go out in the woods, and unless you live out in the woods, you'll never understand. You know, people just sit at home. They come home every night, and they really don't go to the woods. They may go camping occasionally. But if you're familiar with the woods and you are out there in the woods a lot, you'll notice that things not always are what they should be out there.
Right.
And you have a lot of questions. We had a 300-pound calf that died, completely picked up and taken away, the whole carcass. Now, that doesn't, you think, okay, well, that's not really weird. Well, it is, because when you have an animal that big, usually what will happen is the coyotes will come in and tear it up.
Yeah.
And you'll see,
There's usually some sort of lack of a better term, dinner plate kind of gross scene there, but for it to just something to pick a 300-pound animal up and carry it away is not. Bears don't do that. I don't, they're probably strong enough, but they're not gonna do it.
No. You can be in denial all you want. You can say, animals came in. No, that does not happen. You don't just have an animal that big. Foxes, skunks, and raccoons will come in and feed on any dead carcass out there, because everything out there is in survival mode, and they'll eat anything.
Right.
But it's not going to take the whole 300-pound carcass up and leave with it.
Yeah, there's usually a feeding frenzy scene, blood, gore at the scene, just not just gone. That's very strange.
Well, also, so this happened a couple years ago. You know, birds are supposed to sleep at night, and I know that there are birds that don't. Okay, they sometimes will make noises at night, but these birds were kind of really big sounding birds. Okay, and out my back porch is, you can just see woods and, you know, big trees and stuff. And I'm hearing this bird, like these bird sounds and bird whistles, and they're so loud. And I'm like, what is doing this at 11 o'clock at night? And it actually did this for a little while and then moved, all this sound moved to the back pasture and just kind of, you know, like faded away. So I'm not really sure birds travel at night like that, especially 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
And I have actually had heard like monkey sounds back there. Something was making sounds, and I screamed like I tried to scare it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know what it was, but I'm not going to let it scare me. So I scared it, and I just heard a bunch of like monkey sounds leaving, like going the opposite direction. And it wasn't dogs; it was something else, but
Right.
It wasn't dog sounds. So I don't know what's going on out here, but I know that whatever it is, it's probably just an animal we haven't discovered yet. But there are things out there that aren't normal wildlife, like you would think.
Yeah.
And there's people here in Middle Tennessee that have had experiences that I know of and spoke with personally. And this is probably going to really freak you guys out, but there is a husband and wife that were traveling down a road, and the wife was actually telling me this, and she said that they saw a thing. It was black, and it was in the middle of the pasture or a field on this road, Highway 13 actually, and it was standing straight up and down, like on two legs, and they went back to see what this was. And this was 3:30 in the afternoon, and they kept looking at it, you know, on the side of the road, and she got out and used the binoculars and was staring at it, and she said it was blacker than black, it was tall as a street sign, she didn't see ears on it, but she saw a snout, and she said it wasn't like real bulky, but it had like arms and shoulders, kind of like a human, you know, but it wasn't human, but they were straight down, and she saw like claw fingers, and she saw people looking legs, not backward legs.
Right.
She didn't see like animal legs, and I was like, "Are you sure it wasn't up there?" And her husband, you know, they both were staring at it, and her husband said, "Well, I'll just beat the horn and see what it does." And when he beat the horn, the thing ran like fast as anything they'd ever seen into the wood line. And when I got back to her house, her husband was outside smoking a cigarette, and she went in, and he told me the same story over again. And evidently they not fight, but they argue that, well, that was a Bigfoot. No, it couldn't have been a Bigfoot because it had a snout. So, but they're about as straight up, average, normal Betty Crocker people as you'd ever meet. You know, they're not into the paranormal stuff. You know,
Right.
They're all about their kids. So, and then another lady I know in the same part of town, and her daughter was walking down a road that they've lived on for a long time, and they were moving from one place to another place down the road. And so the daughter at 10 years old, she's much older now, she's in her 20s, but back then she was walking back down to the house that they were leaving, and she wanted to get like some toys or something and herself. And on the way back, she came running in the door, and her mother told me oh, she was chased by a bear because she said this bear was running after her on two legs, and it was running down the road after her, and a car or two or something went by her and stopped this thing from actually getting her. And she believed that the cars were the reason that, they went by. So evidently the cars saw this thing too. I don't know. But when she came in the house, her mom said she had shut the door behind her and slid down the door and was just sitting there like all freaked out. Wow. And lost the color in her face. So she said it was something chased her on two legs, but she said it was a bear. Now, bears don't run on two legs.
Yeah, they don't.
So I don't know if we have what they call a Gugly problem.
Well, a Gugly is a Micmac name, and that's I think the Gugly is, it's supposedly, the description of a Gugly is a creature with a snout, no tail, large like Sasquatch, which in my eyes, there's three descriptions: the Dogman, Sasquatch, and then this creature. Kuhnbo Baker calls him variant 3 because he's got, or 4, excuse me, 3, yeah, because there's two variants of a Sasquatch. Then this thing, and then the Dogman, which has the strange hocked legs, and then the werewolf thing, which makes more sense because it's not a shapeshifter, but it's a werewolf in my eyes because it's got no tail, but it's got human-like legs, a snout, and they're very vicious, but they're more intelligent than a Dogman. They're almost have the intelligence of a Sasquatch. So I think that's pretty much what you've got going on out there. Guess
what? I live close to LDL.
Yeah. I was putting that together as you were talking. The Gugwe, actually, the natives in Tennessee in the South, that's what they were calling these things because they didn't have, that's just their term for them. So that's terrifying I'm still sitting here thinking about that bunny. That's just baffled me because it's almost like I'm picturing some kind of creature, it's going to sound funny, but I'm not saying it to be funny, but, Fat Bastard from Austin Powers, I'm picturing some creature eating chicken wings like that, just it's like it put it in its mouth and it just sucked it dry, and just pulled it out like a chicken wing.
Well, it also freaked me out because this thing didn't take it and run away. It wanted me to see it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, whoever's listening to this right now, in Jesus' name, I'm a Christian, and in Jesus' name, and as a witness, as Jesus as a witness, this really happened. So whatever could get in that thing, and shut the cage door back, has fingers.
And intelligence.
And is able to manipulate like a human.
Yeah, intelligence as well. For you to...
Yes.
For it to want to leave it there for you to see is, that's maliciousness in its intelligence, opening and shutting the door. Obviously knowing that you're going to come and see it again the next day. That's not right.
No, and I've stacked, we have boulders. Did you know that anything over 5 inches, any rock over 5 inches is considered a boulder?
No, I didn't know that.
I'm from Florida. I just found that out. But, yeah, so I'd stack them. I have a tree stump way in the back pasture, and I would stack these up just because I can, if I look at a certain place with my flashlight, I can shine them. Something keeps knocking them off.
Huh.
Now, not many people come out here on my property because my dogs will eat them up.
Right.
And everybody that lives around here knows I have the Phylloprocellero mastiff, and they're terrified of my dogs. So I don't see people coming out here. Let me tell you another thing that happened out here. Okay. I never saw a Bigfoot or any kind of weird thing or anything like that. But there's a ranch next to me, and their friends would go hunting out there all the time, whenever, and he lived in Nashville, but he just come out here just to go hunting and stuff, and they let him. Well, I didn't know this. I didn't even know the guy until this happened, and then I talked to my neighbor about it later. But my dogs, I had 5 at the time, Vito Brasileiro Mastiffs. I have a lot now, but not 5. But anyway, they were raising Cain at the back of my 6-foot fence. And something was coming up from the woods behind my house. And I'm like, what is that? And I'm in the laundry room, and I'm looking, and I'm like, I see a flashlight. And so it had just got dark, and I see this flashlight, and my dogs are raising. These are big dogs, and they're like, woo, they got that big dog sound, and they're, whoever hears those dogs is probably not going to want to come in that direction, but whoever this was coming in the direction of my dogs. And they were shining the flashlight, and I went out there, and I'm looking, and it's a guy in a one-piece hunting suit. And I'm looking, I didn't know him. And I said, what's going on? He goes, I got lost back there. And he told me, he was hunting on my neighbor's property, and he said he got lost. And he was just going to walk down my driveway and go on out onto the road and go on down there. And I'm like, wait a second. I said, there's no shoulder on this road, so if you don't mind, I'll just drive you over there because I don't want you to get hit or anything on this road, because you will. And this man looked terrible. Now looking back, his face was just white. And I found out he was in my truck, and I was taking him over back to my neighbor's ranch. And he said that he was back there and that he had dropped his bow. And I'm thinking something chased him, because why would he drop his bow and leave his bow out there?
Yeah.
Those things are expensive. But yeah. He told me he was bow hunting, but he didn't elaborate. But he wouldn't really talk. And I'm thinking something must have chased him. But my neighbor said he never came back to hunt out there. That he was welcome any time. And when I brought it, the guy that owns the ranch over there, him and his family, he's an older gentleman, and he told me, I was always thinking that there was something out there, and I'm like, well, that's what he did. And I explained that to my neighbor about how weird that was, that he got lost, because he had been hunting out there for a long time. How did he get lost?
Yeah.
And he must have been trying to avoid something out there. But tell me that doesn't freak you out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you've got these huge dogs who in their right mind, I mean, unless they're scared of whatever is behind them, is going to run
than they are the dogs.
That's terrifying. I was just thinking of this when you were talking about the guy and you were talking about your dogs as well. What kind of person, like you said, is going to come in to your yard, and I'm going back to this bunny thing, or your calf, while these huge dogs are roaming around your land? It's not, in my eyes, definitely not a human. It's something that's not afraid of your animals, your dogs,
Well, let me tell you another thing that happened, too, a few years ago. These same 5 Brazilian Mastiffs, okay, big dogs, they are barking at the back fence, okay? And this was in March, and it was like a misty morning out there. It's real pretty, but a lot of mist on the ground. And my dogs were raising Cain back there, just looking back there. And I'm like, what is going on? Early, probably about 7:30 in the morning or something like that. I didn't say anything to my dogs. They were just I wanted to know what they were barking at. And I thought, well, maybe is it one of the neighbor's dogs over here or something? But they were acting really aggressive, which is not normal for them to be that way with just the neighbor's dogs that come over all the time, you know. They were just really upset, my dogs were. So I kind of snuck out there, and I had one of my guns on me, and I just crept down the fence. And whatever this was that they were raising Cain about was about 5 foot long. This is from what I gather in my head looking at it. I'm trying to see the head of this thing, and it's laying in the tall grass out there. And I guess it must have seen me because it started flailing like I'd see like appendages flying, like black, all black. What out here is black? They say that there's black panthers, but they're not supposed to be black panthers out here, according to the Wildlife Association or whatever. But
I don't think they're 5 feet long either.
Yeah, well, this thing, like, it never, you know how, like, if something's crouching down, it will jump up and run. This thing never did that. It turned over. I seen black appendages kind of flying around, like, up in the air as it was turning over, and it never stood up. It just slithered away.
That's creepy. Now,
God is my witness. This is all true.
Yeah.
And people say they've seen black panthers, and they swear that they do. And if there are black panthers, I'm thinking, just like the armadillos coming up from South America, that maybe jaguars are coming up to South America, and there are black jaguars.
Right.
Could be, but this thing with normal animals they run from dogs.
Yeah.
They don't tout dogs. And I had 5 big, full-grown Brazilian Mastiffs. You can Google them, put them on Google, look at them. They're huge, and they're fearless dogs. And why would this thing be stalking my dogs?
Yeah, it's almost like it was teasing them.
Yeah.
Which is intelligence. I mean, that's a highly intelligent animal, you know, to go and tease something that multiple animals, and animals aren't dumb, you know, I mean, they can tell if another animal can hurt them.
They're definitely not dumb.
You know, so, I mean, what animal is going to tease five huge dogs that are already in an aggressive stance and mood? You know, it was like it was just playing with them for fun. And I'm wondering if that was the same thing that you saw jump out of your tree that night.
That's what I'm thinking. And I've got a picture. I've sent this to maybe, like when I first got it on one of my game cams, I sent it around to a few people.
If you don't mind, could you send that to me? I'm friends with Alon, but I don't. I mean, I'm sure you can send it to me. But
I think one of his told some of my story on one of his blogs or something. But yeah. So, but there's more to say here. I will send you that picture.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
But there's what happened in another county over from me. This lady has a sign outside her. This is a rural county, and I was driving down the road, and it said, "Bear killed pony." She spray painted it on a piece of wood and nailed it to something right there. And so when you drive by, you see bear killed pony. So I pulled in her driveway, and I beat the horn, and I wanted them to come out because here she's got this sign, and I want to know, are there bears here?
Right.
What's going on? I've got livestock. And she was very nice. She had some people with her that she came out and actually got in her car because she said she was leaving. But she talked to me for a few minutes, and she said what happened was this. She had the police come out, or the sheriff's department come out, and they actually seen the, everything. And she found her pony. It was a miniature pony. She said it was older, and she found it underneath. We have these juniper trees, and they're kind of like cedar trees too. Some people call them cedars, but their boughs come down really low sometimes. And she found her little old pony stuffed up under one of these trees. But she said it never, ever went under anything like that. And she said it appeared that it had been dragged by its tail around the pasture, or around her paddock, the paddock she had it. And because you could see the scuffle marks, she said. Wow. And she said that the marks, I asked her about the marks on the pony. I said, well, what, I mean, you know, if it was a bear, there'd be bite marks, right? Well,
yeah.
Only around the back of the pony's tail area and the behind were scratched and around the neck area. So there were no chunks taken out. There were no canines. There was no bite marks, but there were scratches and like where this thing had pulled the pony around by its tail. And she believes that it, like, the neck was snapped or something. Who knows? But her pony never went underneath the tree that she ever knew of, and it was by itself out there. So what would kill a pony like that?
Yeah. And drag it around the paddock is, I mean, that's cruelty, which is another, you know, I like to compare things. Humans, we as humans, we have, you know, we supposedly more intelligent than animals. Some people are not, but, you know, we have basic, you know, like, feelings and emotions. And, I think these animals or these creatures, Dogman, Sasquatch, whatever, have these emotions like us, like, and are cruel. You know, you hear all the time about Dogman trying to scare people or being cruel to other animals.
We might make them mad, too. We might, you know, they might get agitated at us, too, and act out. You know, something we did. Maybe we're interrupting their hunt, or they're, you know, we're doing something to make them mad. Our cars make them mad. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I agree.
But this lady actually believes it was a bear. But how could it be a bear?
Yeah.
Because, you know, she just assumes it was a bear. But how could it be a bear?
There's really no opposable thumb for it to latch on and drag an animal around. I mean, yeah, it can, like, throw it around and stuff, but not drag it around and stuff it under a juniper tree.
Yeah. So I'm just, you know, use your critical thinking here.
Yeah.
And don't try to separate yourself from, you know, everything that we've ever been taught and learned in our lives is probably not true. We must open up our minds and believe that there's other things out there we can't explain. And a long time ago, I knew somebody, and this is I never thought about Bigfoot, but this happened in Macon, Georgia. And remember how people used to hitchhike back in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was a couple of guys that were hitchhiking, and they were talking to a couple of guys in a truck on the side of the road in one of those rest areas that used to be just one of those that you just pull over. Now they have them with bathrooms and everything. Back then, they just had, you know, a place you could just pull your truck over or whatever. And they were talking to a couple of guys in the truck, and this thing came out of the woods. And the person that was telling me this drew a picture of what he was close to one of the hitchhikers that went through this ordeal. And he said it had red eyes. He drew like a lot of teeth coming out of its mouth, and had long arms and hair all over it, all down its face, everything. And he said this thing came out, and the two guys took off in the truck and left the two hitchhikers out there to fend for themselves.
Oh, my God.
And they went running away from this thing, and this thing chased them. And they said that the guy's name was Harold. That was one of the hitchhikers, and he was telling a story where the thing would kind of appear in front of him, and he would run the other way. And back then, people wore these belt buckles that were really, really big, about the size of your hand. I don't know if you remember seeing those belt buckles from back in the 70s, big belt buckles.
Yep. And
he said he took his belt buckle off, or his whole belt off, and he was swinging. That was the only thing he had for any kind of weapon. And he said he was swinging at it, and it seemed to go right through it. I don't know if he was in shock or whatever, but these things could be supernatural. I don't know, but anyway, they finally wound up running out onto this road and running down the road, and the car stopped. And when Harold told his story, he would be in tears and cry. And our neighbors across the road, this is years ago in Ocoee, Florida, I was talking to our neighbors, and they were talking about their mom in Macon, Georgia. They would always carpool, and so it was a bunch of people in a car driving to work, and this thing came down from an overpass, and it was in the road, and it had it was described just like what Harold said he saw. So I don't know. All I know is I'm putting these stories together, and all of this stuff over the years, and it's just too much to really take. I'm pretty blown away by it. But I just don't take anything lightly out there. Remember, there was a 70-year-old woman that was attacked in North Carolina. They still don't understand.
Brenda Hamilton. Yeah, I've covered that a million times on the channel. It's baffling to me. And that's the one case, ironically enough, and I wish more communities were like the community that she's from, because you've got the case in Lipen, Texas, you've got the doctor in Georgia, the Colorado thing, but Brenda Hamilton, her community has not let this slide. It's still in the newspaper every once in a while. They've they want certain answers answered, and they're not going to let it go because I'm pretty sure that those people up there know what happened to her, and they just want the truth, and it's that was a sad case. They're all sad cases, but they all.
Did you hear about the couple in Georgia? This is I believe it was in North Georgia. I don't know, but I'm sure you can find it on the internet. The one, I think it was the man, it was a couple. The man was in either one of those motorized wheelchairs or something, and she was walking, and they were just strolling down the rural road in Georgia, and they both wound up being mauled and killed.
I didn't hear that. Was that recently?
No, that was years ago. So you start putting all of these stories together. They're like, oh, well, it was wild dogs or something like that. Law enforcement, for one, these people, you think they would tell the truth?
Nope.
We don't understand what this is. It could, it's not consistent with, they're not going to come out and tell details of their investigation and scare the public.
Yep, I agree.
I know 2 DNI officers that are retired that have basically, they didn't go into detail, but one admits Bigfoot are real, and he won't elaborate, but he said it on his Facebook page, and that he's retired, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but there's another one that I knew, and he's retired, and he said that there's things in the woods that scare him to death, and he never elaborated on it.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane. But like you just said, I love how you're saying, because I've said it a million times to people. You take all of these stories and you kind of combine the similarities, and that's the
exactly.
You get the answers then. For me, the Lipen, Texas case and the woman in Colorado. Okay, there's 2 similarities that just popped out to me immediately when I read both cases. And I actually called the sheriff in Lipton, Texas, recorded the conversation, put it on the channel. But a perforated hole in their neck sternum area, about the size of a nickel. Well, nothing wild. A bear doesn't do that. And in Texas, they were saying it was a wildcat. Well, actually, they were arguing if it was a wildcat or not. But wild animals don't do that. I mean, for me, the size of a nickel would almost be, if you think about a Dogman or a Sasquatch or whatever, their claw mark or claw print, if they poke, that almost is what I'm thinking with the thumb, opposable thumb, as it grabs the person around the neck, maybe pop. There's your cause of the perforation. And that's just from like what you said, taking these stories and taking the similarities and adding it all together, and that's when you're starting to get answers. This is great. I love that you said that.
Yeah, that's kind of like the most intelligent way to do it, because if our government's not going to come out and tell us the truth, we all need to tell our encounters and our stories. And the more people that come forward, the better. I don't care how small you think your encounter was, or something odd or strange that happened. It's a puzzle piece that will put together the entire puzzle of what these things are. It could be, people say, oh, does Bigfoot live there? No, if there's one, there's more.
Yeah.
Okay. If there's, they talk about these lizard creatures and all this stuff. If there's one, yes, there's others.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I believe, it's my opinion, that we have a lot of caves in Tennessee. The caving system under here, there's so much that hasn't been discovered. We know they're there, but we haven't gone under there yet, and all the caving systems. But a lot of these things probably live underground.
Yeah.
When they come out at night.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they've got to hide somewhere, and a cave is a perfect spot for them to be.
But there's so many other crazy, wild things that I know. I could probably stay on the phone for 2 more hours. But
if you don't mind, because I'm coming up on a little bit of time. I got a little bit of time left on the recording of it. But you did say a family member of yours, and I'm not going to elaborate on what family member or anything, and you don't have to either, but a family member of yours had seen a Dogman-like creature. Could you share that story with us?
Yes, okay. Actually, 2 family members.
Yes.
But they don't live together, and they live separately. So one of them, him and his wife, it was near Daytona, on the road that goes from Daytona to Ocala. And it's rural. And they were pulling a trailer, and it was probably it was very early morning, late at night. And there were no lights on the road, just their lights. And it's a van. Was it like a G20 van, or it's just one of those really high up vans? And he was pulling a trailer behind them with their equipment for their business. And they were leaving Daytona and going towards Ocala. And this thing was in their headlights, and it was on 2 legs, and it had a wolf's head. And he said it had red eyes, but it had like 4 arms, like a person would, but it was it wasn't a person, it was a creature, it was definitely not a person.
Right. And
he said it was demonic. And he described a werewolf.
Yeah.
And him and his wife both saw it. And he said it was like 7 feet tall, because they were sitting up in this van, and they went by it going like 55, and their heads were right there where that thing's head was, and they were sitting up in the van. So they said it just was staring across the road, and they went right by it, and it had teeth all in its big old teeth, red eyes, and it kind of looked like it didn't have a lot of hair on it, but it had like red skin. So I don't know if it had mange or if I don't understand.
Right.
You know, he just was terrified, and his wife saw it too.
That's
and the
terrifying.
other family member told me that this it was near Claremont, Florida, and it was on highway, was it 27? I can't remember. But anyway, I can't remember what highway it was. It was going through Claremont. But anyway, this big, like, it looked like a wolf. And it had a huge upper body and a smaller kind of waist. And it jumped in front of his car. And it did this twice because he would travel back and forth from work. And his car, like he said that the back was 4 foot high, about as high as his car, you know, the top of his car or the hood of his car. So if this thing stood up, it would be double that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it never stood up. This was on all four, and it went from one side of the road, it touched down in the middle, and it went right over to the other side. And he said he's seen it 2 times, separate occasions, on that same stretch of leg. And he said it was not, you know, like a dog or a regular wolf looking. He said it appeared to be like a wolf, but it wasn't like any wolf he'd ever seen. Like it was very muscular and just not your typical wolf looking thing, you know. So I don't know what's out there, people, but people are seeing these things, and a lot of times people won't talk about it. So, you know, everybody's had weird encounters, you know, supernatural things happen to them. Everyone's got a ghost story. But there's things in the woods we don't understand.
Yeah.
So always go with bear spray, mace, never go alone, always bring your phone. David Pletty says, bring a transponder if you're going to be hiking around out there. I mean,
yeah,
it's scary.
It's not, like you said, you know, we don't know. And you're laughing, but you're laughing, it's out of nervousness or whatever, but, you know, you've got to be prepared when you're going out there because you've been in the woods, you said, all your life. You grew up, you know, doing stuff outside. And,
oh, yeah.
you know, firsthand encounters, and I'm sure that you go out with a sidearm, flashlight, your cell phone, whatever else you need.
I'm always armed, yes.
And it's, you know, just because you're, you know, when you laughed about that, it's serious, you know, it's
serious.
Yeah.
It's so serious, people. I take this stuff seriously. I have to take care of my livestock, and I don't care what it is. We have coyotes that'll take you down. You know, any kind of wild animal. Mountain lions will get you. You know, actually, people are probably the scariest creature out there because, you know, people are predators too. But there's things out there that we don't, you know, that aren't, you know, really known by mainstream. And I just want to tell people just to be aware. Don't leave your animals tied up on a chain.
Yes.
If you have a dog, that first of all, other dogs can fight your dog and kill them if your dog's on a chain. And if other animals can come in, they can attack your dogs. I don't ever leave my dogs chained up. They have a big place to run. Put a fence up around a run for them, but never leave them on a chain because they are bait for anything out there. And
I agree. I agree. Actually, I think that if you have a dog, you know, even if you have a beautiful home, you know, and you don't want to bring your dog inside, that maybe put him in the basement or build something off the garage. Don't leave him outside at all at night, you know, that because like it's
never leave your dogs outside at night.
Yeah.
If you love them, because you know they're, you know, first of all, if you study mountain lions, they are territorial and they will kill dogs just because they're territorial. and they won't eat them, but they'll kill them just to get them out of their territory.
Yep, I agree. Well, we are coming up on time. I really appreciated having you on. And like you said, you could share more stuff for a couple hours. If you ever want to come back, my show is always open for you to come back on.
I'll tell one more thing.
Yeah, please do.
There's a place called Montgomery Bell Park. And I know that a lot of your listeners have heard this from other podcasts about Montgomery Bell and the werewolf of Montgomery Bell. And if you go on the internet and you type in Werewolf Springs, Montgomery Bell, there's really a Werewolf Springs. And I went there and I drove up into there's a ranger station, and there's a bunch of them in there. And I just happened to, I went up to, it's just so unbelievable to me that this is, even real. But I went up to the, up to the ranger station, and I just said, yeah, so I've heard about this werewolf in this park, and I kind of, chuckled about it. And, a couple of them behind the counter turned around and looked at me. They didn't laugh. They didn't smile. They didn't, I was kind of laughing, and it wiped the smirk off my face the way they were looking at me.
Wow.
So I just want to say that I think these people take it seriously.
Absolutely.
I kind of felt stupid about chuckling about it after I got their reaction.
Right. I mean, well, what are you supposed to think? Most people in that field are just, they're meant to tell us, hey, they don't exist, this and that. But, they've obviously seen it to give you a reaction like that.
Well, there have been, I think, bodies found in there. I know that there was a headless body found. This was a news story right there in Montgomery Bell Park. So, they were trying to say it was a gang killing, and how they behead people. I'm like, we don't have gangs around here like that.
I love the media, how they express things in the media. It's outrageous. There was a guy just recently, and he was a professor. Ironically enough, he was a professor, and when they found his body 4 hours later, they found another woman dead. But they said that it was not a predatory kill. Well, what do you mean? He was torn apart in the woods. It's not predatory? What the heck? I love the media, how they word things, and
Well, they're told to do this because our government doesn't want us. They're trying to keep it on the down low. They don't want to make everybody nervous. But quite honestly, how many people go into the woods every day? We don't. We go on occasion usually. So, there are things in the woods we cannot understand. Too many people are having strange occurrences, and they're seeing things, and,
I agree.
Just be careful out there, people, and come forward if you have anything, that can help put these puzzle pieces together. We're all in this together.
Absolutely. Selena, it was great having you on today, and you really had some amazing encounters that you shared, but some true amazing points as well. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you have a blessed night, and thank you for having me on. And everybody, y'all have a great night, and I'll see y'all later.
All right, guys, I hope you all enjoyed tonight's second half as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Getting set up for tonight's live stream somewhere between 11 and midnight. I'm going to try to shoot for midnight, so if all you guys hear this, for some reason YouTube keeps messing with my notifications, and so tonight's live stream is going to be at midnight for those of you that hear this, because for the two videos before this that I put up, I have gotten like 60% less views, which is not even normal. Anyway, guys, stay safe, happy, healthy, and God bless every single one of you.